everybody. I want to welcome everybody that's joining us today for the second in Aging Matters in Brevard's Sunflower House Workshop, Caregiving 101. Like I said, this is the second section, and this section we've listed as Adjusting to a New Normal. Today I'm so happy to have two of my coworkers, my boss, Ellie Dalmatian from Aging Matters in Brevard, and Ellie, your title is Program Director for Home and Community-Based Services? Is that
yes. Yep. I am over the Home and Community-Based Services. So basically, just kind of give you a very simple breakdown. Aging Matters has technically three major programs over in Aging Matters. One is the Meals on Wheels that we are most well known for. And then we have our home and community-based services. And then we have our retired senior and volunteer program, which are all of the volunteer aspect of it. I am over the in-home services. So I oversee the in-home care, Rose's program, Rose Smith's program, which is, she'll go into a little bit more detail about that, but the housing improvement, the home care program, case management, transportation, and just basically everything in home and community, as well as Beth's program, the Sunflower House. So thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Allie. And then also, Allie mentioned that Rose Bartlett Smith is also joining us. And Rose, your title is?
I'm the supervisor of the Housing Improvements Program, which is also called the Senior Assistance Program underneath Allie.
Terrific, terrific. Kathy, would you like to say a couple of things about how you're joining, what you're joining us today? And you're a caregiver?
I am. My mother-in-law is staying with us full time. She's been here since November. And yeah, we're kind of learning as we're going along, but yes, we need some help.
I hear you. I hear you. It looks like Rose is Rose left again. The other Rose left again. Rose Dumont left again. I hope she's coming back in. I think she's been trying to connect. We're gonna wait and see if she jumps in and out. But Jackie, if you're still on, could you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
Yes, so my mom's moving in with us. She just moved in about a month ago, and it was a struggle. She didn't want to come live with us, but now she's living with us. And we're also having like home remodeling done, so lots going on here at the same time. But it's just, she has dementia, and it's been really hard to get her, to keep her on a schedule for one thing, and another thing to getting her to complying to take baths and use a bathroom untimely. And it's really hard for me because it's hard for me physically and emotionally, because it's hard, it's just a lot of work, but I love her. She's sweet, she's funny, she's kind, but it's just, I'm trying to learn, techniques to deal with this new normal. And I thought I was an empty nester, and now my mom's with me. So I feel like I'm still here, but caretaking is tough. It takes a toll on you emotionally. So I need a support group.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's one of those, I heard a phrase, I was in a workshop, and it said that halos were heavy. And sometimes I think people don't recognize the kind of weight and toll that it takes on everybody, and how much it's really difficult. It can be really difficult to ask for help and support, especially if we think we're, kind of superwomen and supermen. And we think that's the last thing we want to do, is to have to ask for anybody to support us and help us. But it takes a lot of strength to be able to know to reach out to do things, especially when you're now learning trying to learn how to caregive, in the middle of all of this. I think I would love to start, Allie, if you could start. And I also think, Jackie, it's great because Rose is going to talk about home modifications. And if you're already knee deep in the middle of home remodeling, some of this might be really timely for you. But Allie, first, if you could speak a little bit about just, care coordination and case management. What does that mean to the layperson? And, you know.
Absolutely. So, you know, we kind of touched upon the last segment about going through our different funds and our different grants. Aging Matters, just to kind of touch upon it right now, is Aging Matters works with different state and federal grants. We offer in-home services at low or minimal cost on a monthly basis to our seniors and their caregivers in Brevard County. We assist with the caregivers with respite, which basically is allowing the caregiver to be able to get a break and giving the caregiver some time alone while an aide or someone comes into the home and helps out with the things that the caregiver would normally do: bathing, homemaking, meal preparation, you know, anything that the caregiver might be doing, the aide is able to do under a respite program. And we offer homemaking and bathing assistance. So really, those funded programs offer our seniors in Brevard County the ability to be able to get some services in the home, as I mentioned, at little or no cost. So the funds that we get are, I'm not going to go super in depth, but they are different grants that enable, just like I said, some assistance. And the care coordination really is, once someone gets on our services and on our programs, we have case managers, and those case managers really help out with identifying the needs and identifying the services that the caregiver and the client might need. Once you go through the screening process with Lori, our intake coordinator, and she identifies which specific program might be in need, once the funding is available, a case manager would come out to the home. In this case right now, it's over the phone. Due to COVID, we really tried to minimize the amount of people that are coming out to the home. Our seniors and our caregivers are already getting aides coming out to the home. So Department of Elder Affairs had given us the ability to be able to have our case managers step back and say what is truly necessary and what is an important identity to be able to come into the home and service these seniors. Well, we know that the aides that are caring for the seniors and caring for the caregivers are a super necessity. We know that Rose's program and that the handyman coming out to the home are a necessity. So not that our case managers aren't a necessity, but if we can eliminate the in-home service and be able to do these services and do the assessment over the phone, that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to be able to get every coordination of care and every start of care over the phone. So our case managers really are there to be able to identify the needs, identify what the caregivers and the clients' needs are and what they want, what they need, and develop a plan of care. That plan of care is there to help the family and the client maintain as much independence as they possibly can in the home. I don't know, Beth, how much in detail you really want me to go, or if you want me to kind of go through the full aspect of it, but our whole scope of what we want to do is to make sure that we develop the best plan to make sure the client and the caregiver are taken care of. So kind of tell me, Beth, how much in depth would you like me to go?
And I'd love to hear from, and Deb's rejoined us again. So hi, Deb, and Deb and Kathy, and Jackie, but I think that I would love to hear just, kind of a basics about sort of what, I guess from a caregiver point of view, how having a case manager might help alleviate some, so if you could just kind of go through the basic stuff. I had heard, and I kind of stolen it, that case management is sort of like being a general contractor when you're building a home.
Sure.
That you can say, oh, my husband and I want to build a house, but then to decide that you're gonna general contract it yourself is a whole nother ball of wax, because then all of a sudden you're bringing in all these different subs and you have to coordinate the timing and PT and the homemaker and the personal care attendant and this doctor's appointment. And so, Allie, if you could speak a little bit to, sort of how the practical things that case management, having a care coordinator or a case manager in, I'd love to hear a little more about that.
Absolutely. So I'm going to give you guys kind of an example. And I think this might be able to relate to a lot of people. You know, you have a newly widowed 85-year-old female who has been living in Brevard County. Her children have moved out of state, and now she has started to take a decline. She had a hospitalization. She has fallen. She's broken a leg, and now is out of rehab. Before, she was completely independent, did not need any services available, and now she's at a point right now where she needs that help. She would go through the screening process with Lori, get on the wait list, and services would be opened when funding was available. The case manager, basically what their job is to go out to the home, and like I mentioned, in COVID scenario right now is going to be doing things over the phone. They're going to go through an assessment process. That assessment can last anywhere between 40 minutes to an hour and a half. It really depends on how much conversation is happening, how much details are given, how long this conversation is going, and how many, you know, we're not there to shut out conversation. We're there to listen to conversation. So the case managers are talking with the clients or the caregivers and really discussing about what their inabilities and their abilities are. Now, that screening process, like Lori had mentioned before, is very similar to that, but the case management assessment is the start of care, I guess you could say. It is the assessment that is going to rate this person and determine how much need they have. So the case manager is going to be asking about their abilities, their inabilities with their activities of daily living, and their everyday outside of daily living resources, how much help they need with food assistance, how much they need with personal care, how much they need with homemaking, how much with transportation, how much with chores, do they need help with medications? It's really in-depth, and then they go into a list of medications and what medical diagnoses they may have as well. This assessment also talks about their nutrition. They talk about how many meals they eat alone, how many meals they actually eat, and how many fruits and vegetables, how much intake of fluid do they have. So it's really in depth, and that assessment, for the lack of better terms, rates them on a score really of, I guess you could say, 1 to 5, and it determines how much assistance they're going to need. Now, during this conversation, the case manager is also finding out from either the caregiver or the client themselves how much assistance they have doing those tasks. So this person may be able, let's say there's a caregiver in the home and the client themselves are completely capable of doing everything on their own, but they have some memory loss. And the caregiver is exhausted because of the memory loss. It's exhausting them. It's tiring them because you're constantly, you may not be helping with the bathing and the grooming, but your constant supervision, you're constantly watching over them. That in itself is exhausting. So the assessment is also looking at the caregiver's needs. You know, they're checking out how draining it is to the caregiver, not only emotionally or physically, but financially as well. So these screening tools are used to be able to develop that plan of care. Once the case manager identifies and goes through this assessment, like I said, that could last 40 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on how much conversation is had. They really talk and say, what is it that you need? Do you need help with bathing? Do you need help with homemaking? Do you need to just get out of the home if there's a caregiver in the home? They're there to guide the caregiver and the client through the process of getting assistance in the home. You know, Aging Matters' primary goal is to keep our clients in their home and to age in place. Sometimes that's not safe. Sometimes it's just not possible, and we understand that. And at some point we'll get to that process and during our series, but our talk right now is to see what the case managers can do. And if it means that homemaking is needed and they need help with cleaning up and they need help with shopping assistance or meal preparation. The case manager is going to identify about how many hours they need per week. They also can help with personal care and how much bathing they need per week.
So,
yeah.
Ellie, I've got a quick question. Now, I know you had mentioned it's gotten the words ADLs, assistance of, activities of daily living. If you could kind of just go through because there's two different kind of categories, main categories. There's activities of daily living and independent activities of daily living, which are, the acronyms are ADLs and IADLs.
Right.
That's going to be something that people are going to hear over and over again as they're going through this process. If you could just give me a kind of give us a few snippets of like what an activity of daily living is and how it might be different from an independent activity of daily living.
Absolutely. So daily living, an activity of daily living is your dressing and your grooming. What can you do every day? You're getting changed, you're pulling socks on, you're bathing and washing your hair, your meal preparation possibly. The independent activity of daily living are your managing of finances, you're making a telephone call, your independence of being able to live on your own. You might be able to bathe and dress and groom yourself, but and that's the activities of daily living. And those are related when someone goes into an assisted living, they rate your activities of daily living, how you're able to manage your personal hygiene and how you're able to manage your room that you might be able to live in. When you get into your IADLs, those are your independent living. Those are your managing your finances, making telephone calls, your more higher level independent living. In activities of daily living that may not be looked at as closely if you had a caregiver in the home. But when you have no caregiver in the home, those take a lot of priority because you get into the aspect of exploitation of funds. You get into a point where they might be someone who's taking advantage of someone else financially. So that just kind of goes into a little bit more of detail, if that helps kind of answer any of those questions. It's really when they ask about how much assistance you actually need with those, not only are they asking about, can you do it? It's, do you have assistance with those tasks too? So you may be able to, you may not be able to do all of those tasks. You may not be able to prepare a meal. You may not be able to bathe yourself. But then a second part of the assessment that the case manager does is, well, if you can't do that, do you have assistance to do that? And obviously, if you can't do that and you have no assistance to do that, you are going to score a heck of a lot higher than it would be having 100% assistance on the side. I mean, the scoring tool is very complex. I don't want to say it's complex. It's very standard, but it's complex in the fact that the way they rate it is very different. You may be able to have everything under the sun and every resource possible, but if your caregiver is exhausted, then you might be triggering a little bit something different. I know that a question was asked too about, can you have a caregiver help with a loved one qualify for this? I lost the chat for a sec. Is that what it was?
No, I think the question was that Rose asked was, can anyone have a case manager assigned to them?
Oh,
or a loved
yeah.
Or do they have to qualify for it?
Yeah, so pretty much you still have to go through that screening process. You have to go through the screening process with our funded programs. So you get through Lori, our intake specialist, you go on a wait list, and then once funding is available, a case manager is assigned. There's a different kind of section of working with Senior Resource Alliance and Department of Elder Affairs that if you are a caregiver and you want to get paid for caregiving with your loved one or for your husband or for your spouse, you can work with the Department of Elder Affairs and Senior Resource Alliance to be able to get funding to be able to care for your loved one. I don't know a ton about it because it's not something that we really do, but we do refer to Senior Resource Alliance and Department of Elder Affairs for it. But yeah, you do have to qualify to be managed by a case manager through our funded programs. There are some other resources out in the community that you private pay for a case manager. In our case, they are totally free, and it just goes with, or nominal fees depending on the program you're on.
Thank you,
once you're
Ellie.
a case manager.
I think that one of the things that every caregiver needs to think about is, there's different levels of caregiving. There's caregiving when your mom lives right with you and you're home all day because you or your spouse are retired and it's your mom and she's there and there's always somebody buzzing around. And then there's caregiving when your mom or dad lives with you, but everybody has to go to work, so they're kind of left by themselves. And then there's caregiving where they live in the next town over and you're close. And then there's caregiving when you live at the other end of the United States.
Right.
And all maybe needs different. And then there's the levels, like you were saying before, Ellie, about the levels of activities of independent activities of daily living. And that's where those really come in. So it might be that somebody would be capable, they just need help taking they just want somebody with them, they just want some help when they're taking a shower, or they just need somebody to help and come and just do some light housekeeping because they just can't scrub their, they just can't clean their tub, they just can't do those things. But they're perfectly capable of taking care of their finances, and they're perfectly capable of calling for a ride. So there's some different levels. I really am hearing from you, Allie, that the great place to start is to call Lori at Aging Matters in Brevard, and she can point you guys in the right direction. So Jackie and Deb and Kathy, if you guys haven't done that already, please make sure that you give Lori a call. Ellie, I'm embarrassed to say I don't have Lori's phone number right with me, but I bet you've got it right there on your desk.
I sure do. And
I put you on the spot because I didn't ask her to have this up. So yay.
That's all right. It's the same area code. It's 321-806-3802. And Lori's there to identify what those needs. So it's 806-3802. And, Lori's there to identify what the situation is. You tell them your scenario, she'll direct you in that direction. And, there are different services and there's different funds, and without getting into it, because it can be extremely overwhelming, but we can offer in-home, we can offer adult daycare, we can offer supplies, we can offer emergency alert, we can offer homemaking, personal care, respite. There's such a plethora of services to be able to maintain that independence in the home and to be able to give the caregiver that break that they need, that Lori's there to identify that. So, that's her expertise. That's what she does. And she'll, even though it's such a standardized questionnaire, she's there to be able to walk you through it, and make sure that she identifies the needs and identifies the questions that will, if you're not able to answer it, she'll word it in a slightly different way to be able to kind of help you guys through that process. There's a lot of different coordinating of care. It's not, there's no cookie cutter. Everyone's totally different and every scenario is different. So without having someone kind of guide you, it's very hard to navigate through it. I remember when I first started working in long-term care or in nursing homes, just with seniors in general, that was my first question I ever said, is I reached out to my parents and said, please tell me that you have things lined up, because it's exhausting. And if you haven't, I've got the benefit of working in this field for the past 10 or 15 years now. So I know what to expect. But before that, you know, when I was in my early 30s, it was exhausting, and it was scary to see that my parents would be going to be going through this. So take advantage of the resources around, take advantage of Aging Matters and Brevard, and seeing what we have to offer and seeing what we have to help you guys with, because without the services, you know, without these educational tools, it's tough to navigate. It's tough to get through.
Thank you, Ally. So Kathy and Jackie and Deb, before we move on to Rose's section, which is home modification, just anybody have any questions or any thoughts? You can either write them in the chat box, or if you'd like to just, you know, Deb and Jackie unmute, or Kathy speak up and see if you have any questions for Ally around coordinating care.
I have a quick question. I was called like a week ago, and I had a phone interview, and I'm wondering if this is the interview that Lori was talking about for getting help, or you know, because she did give me an interview. She said I was on a waiting list, but I'm not exactly sure how that, you know, what waiting list that's for.
Sure.
Because I do. I don't know if you have record of me or anything. I'm wondering, because it is very exhausting for me. And Mom, you know, she does miss being at home, and she, you know, she was doing fine. I mean, she sits like 10 hours, 12 hours a day. The whole day she's sitting. She's real easy to take care of. But like, I have to serve her breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I have to clean up after her all the time. And I have, you know what I mean? It's just like, I feel like I can't really go anywhere, and it'd be nice to be able to have help or whatever, but she can't afford private pay help, you know, as much. So I've just been, you know, doing, and then I'll pay on my own, or with Mom. She has a lady that comes in like once a week for like 3 hours, but she's with me all the time. So my question is, I'm wondering if she wanted to go home and stay home like a couple days a week, that would give me a break. But if I could have somebody to go there while she's there, that way I would feel like she's, you know what I mean? It's just
Sure.
really hard that she, you know, she's always asking to go home. And I feel like I'm almost keeping her here. You know, it'd be nice for her to be able to go home a couple days a week, or like share that time, but I don't know how. It's just hard for me to be in two places at once, you know? Plus I'm trying to work at home, and it's just really hard.
You
So
know, and I understand completely, because we do have some clients that are living with their children and would love to be able to go home with the services 100%. So I'm going to send you a private message or just a chat through here. Just let me know. I'm going to send it to you just to let me know your mother's details. I'll put it in the message, and just name, date of birth, and just send me back a contact information so I can reach out to you and go over a little bit more in detail about what that might be.
Thank
so
you.
I can give you a better idea of where we stand and what else we can do for you to find out, at least give you a little peace of mind about where you're at.
Right. Thank you, dear.
Sure.
Kathy, how you doing?
Doing okay. We're kind of thinking about possibly going in another direction, though. She wants to be around people her own age. So we're thinking possibly looking for a place for her, but she's going to need help.
Are you thinking of like an assisted living facility?
I don't know if that's enough. I mean, we need to have her evaluated at some point.
What can she do? Is she able to sit, stand, pivot, transfer on her own? Like with little, like, can she sit and stand and transfer into another chair?
Yes, she can do that.
You know, and that's one of the biggest things that assisted livings need you to be able to do is, I mean, there's different levels too. You know, there's some that are higher functioning, and there's some that are a little bit lower functioning, and they get hospice involved depending on diagnoses and such. But you know, really, if they can sit, stand, pivot, and transfer independently, maybe with a walker or something, their ability is, they're able to get into a lot of the assisted livings around here. I think the biggest question would be the financial aspect of it. You know, there's there's assisted livings that are all the way up to the $7,000-8,000 a month, and then there's some that take Medicaid long-term care, depending on what your needs are. There's some that are larger facilities, and then there's some that are less expensive that are home-like. I mean, they've got 3 or 4 bedrooms, and it's just a home environment. And it's really whatever your preference is, and whatever your mom's preference is too, or your in-laws. I can certainly help. I've been in the community for quite some time, and, so has Rose. So we know of facilities that we can, not necessarily a recommendation, but saying, here's, this one looks like this one looks like this, aesthetically what it might look like, financially what they might look like, and, and kind of guide you. There's also some other companies that help take away that legwork for you,
Okay.
and give it to you. Deb, I'll put my contact in the chat, and you can certainly reach out to me, and I'll kind of help you with some of that.
Cool. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure, absolutely.
Did that answer your question, Kathy?
Yes, it did.
Yeah, I know that one of last week's facilitators from Simplifying Senior Living, Kara, that's what she does. So
Right.
if you were, so you can hire people like that to come in and help you walk through all the different choices and the different levels. And Allie's right. We can't or don't want to necessarily make recommendations for one organization or company versus another, but we can certainly say that these folks are out there. That's another option if and financially, and I don't think it necessarily would cost anything to talk to them to say, hey, what are your prices and what do you cover, and just sort of get a quote on it like you would for anything else. And it might be, if the finances are there, it might be money well spent. Because she'll, those kinds of things, and, not necessarily just Kara, but all of them, I think, will go through and try to make a good match. And so if, my mom is in her 80s, and she has a lot of not only contemporaries, but folks that are a little older than them, where the spouses have had to, and there's been a lot of starts and stops because they think they've got them in a good place, and then it winds up that it isn't necessarily the fit, either financially or skill level need, or just environment, as far as whether or not it's a group home or a big facility or a graduated care, or, there's all kinds of different things to consider. So being able to do those things, have somebody that can guide you with the resources that are here specifically in Brevard County, might be worth the money to spend. And that's an individual choice that everybody, I think, has to make, but I don't think it should be discounted out of hand. Deb,
And I think a lot of those placement companies do it free to the customer, they usually work with different assisted livings. They might work with different companies or different assisted livings, that those would be the ones that they would charge. But I don't necessarily think that they charge the client for their services. I think it might be, not everyone does, I'm not 100% sure, but definitely when you're asking out and ask around, do you charge for this service? Because there are ones that don't charge the client or the customer, and they charge the assisted living when that person is placed there, so
like a travel.
Yep. So definitely check with them before to see if it's a service that's free, because they might very well not charge you anything, and it's just, something that they work with the facilities that they have contracts with.
I know a lady who does that for a living. She's wonderful, and she helps place seniors in different homes for families and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I could always give her the name if she'd like that as well. Her name is Jody Williams.
I'm sorry, Jody what?
Jody Williams. And if you hold on just a minute, I can look up her number. She's amazing, and she's kind, and she's wonderful, and it's free of charge.
Okay.
And she's got access to 7 or 8 different places, but just she's wonderful. She actually used to go to the senior homes and like sing for the seniors and stuff like that as well. That was another thing she was doing. But I can give you her number. If I can, I put you all on pause and I can look it up while would I leave everybody. Maybe I could just get your phone number and I can text you her number.
Sure.
Or I can give you mine and then you can text me.
Well, what I would do is, I think now I have everybody's email address. So at the end of this, rather than us doing this on this, hi Deb, rather than us doing this on like this, I don't have you, Deb, you're on mute.
I
You have to-
finally figured out how to get my picture on there.
Here we go. I'd like to, Jackie, what I'd like to do is to have us, kind of, just let me send emails to everybody, at the end of this, so that you can all have each other's email addresses. And that way we don't have this, because this session right now, we're doing some of this stuff in the middle, and I don't want any of this to inadvertently wind up being part that we tape, because we're recording this, and I don't want public things, folks to have public, phone numbers and things like that. Okay. So at the end of this I'll send out an email to everybody. Now I think I have everybody's email address, and we can move in that direction. Okay.
Okay.
Does
What
that
was
work,
her
Deb?
name? The lady's name that wanted that information, so I'll know in the email.
My name is Kathy Portlock.
Kathy Portlock. Okay.
Okay. I'll send.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Terrific. So I think now, if it's okay, I'd like to move on to Rose, who's the supervisor for senior assistance program at Aging Matters and Provide, and she's going to speak to home modifications and what has to happen once you've got mom living with you and you've still got the child safety locks on from when your kids moved out.
That's a funny segue. I still have an adult living with me. I don't know what empty nest is like yet. I feel like my adult's going to move out and my mom's going to move in, so my adult kid. But that's pretty similar. I think with the housing improvements program, what's really, really awesome about us, and if you guys could take anything away from what it is that I'm going to tell you, you may blur out the whole rest of what I say, because everyone else spoke such wonderful things, and so I'm sure we're all tired and full of information. But if you can take anything away from what I'm going to tell you, my job and my handyman's job is to make your home safer or your parents' home safer so they can live there longer. They could do almost everything maybe on their own, but bathing is the most dangerous thing that's going on in the household, even whether you're standing with them or not. If you use soap, and this is my thing, if you use soap, I don't care what age you are, you need a grab bar. I have one. Everybody needs one. I don't care if I'm shaving my legs or shampooing my hair, I got soap in my eye, I could fall just as easily as the next person. And let me tell you, the shower fall is, I believe, I may be wrong, the worst one in the household. You are possibly hitting your head onto tile, the faucet, the spigot, the handle, the tub. And then you're there, especially if you're alone, now you're there laying there possibly for days. I had a woman who fell between the tub and the toilet, and she was there for 3 days. Nobody could hear her, and it was Meals on Wheels actually that by the 3rd day said, we've got to do something about this. She wasn't answering the phone. She didn't have an emergency contact, so we were able to do a police wellness check on her. The program is for anybody over 60 years old who owns their home. I don't care if you make $1 million a month or if you make $1 a month. We're not gonna care about that. We're gonna come out and do this service one way or the other. This is a donation-based program. If you're in a rental situation, as long as it's not an apartment, I can walk through maybe with the landlord. We've got some small provisions there, but don't write us off completely. There is some possibility I can help with a rental, but we really, try to stick with homeowners because there is some liabilities there. It gets sticky when it comes to a landlord, but I never want to say no without being able to try. But what we do is we install safety grab bars into showers, by toilets, at doorways, and we also build wheelchair access ramps in all of the county except for Palm Bay. Unfortunately, the city has an ordinance that prevents us from doing that. Not just us, but anybody who's not a licensed contractor. And unfortunately, that just makes us fall into a nasty little hole that we can't do anything about right now. We also make bed rails. We can check your smoke detectors, put deadbolt locks in, put motion sensors on the doors and the windows. Trying to go down the list. There's so much. Doorbells. You always got to have a doorbell, a peephole, change light bulbs, because who wants mom on the ladder? You know, she could do everything completely independently, and then that light bulb goes out and like, what? You know, it seems like such a little thing, but I don't, want to see my grandma up on the ladder doing light bulbs. And it's so important that the house is well lit. It really is. I mean, even in a dark closet, you could pull down the wrong thing because you can't see, and that whole shelf comes down on you. There's lots of little tips that my guys are trained to see when they come through your house. We check it. We look at rugs. We look at cords. We try not to offend, but we'll discuss clutter a little bit to make sure that you're safe there. Make recommendations to that. We don't do, unfortunately, home maintenance or home repairs, but we do home safety modifications. And we can do that in your home. If you're not 60 years old, but mom is, and she lives with you, she'll be your qualifying person. So go ahead and still give us a call.
So one of the things that I think you can do, Rose, is can you maybe change door handles?
We can change door handles to the lever style. We prefer that the client picks those out and then we do the installation. Same thing with a Ring doorbell. We will install it, but we won't buy it, and we can't help you with the app and all that, but we can, do the labor of that. Smoke detectors are very important. If you've got one beeping, you can call the fire department, but if you just want one that's to check it or to change it out, that would be us. And the only reason I say call the fire department is because we have a little bit of a wait list. Who wants it to be beeping in your ear, all day long? But if you just want an annual checkup, we can come and do that.
Oh, I didn't know the fire department would help if it was beeping. That's nice.
Yeah, they do, especially if you say senior. I mean, that's a whole nother level. They're great. They've actually donated smoke detectors to us in the past. When they couldn't fulfill the need, we helped them get to the seniors in the county.
But you have to be 60 years old if they're living with you, I think. They won't modify your home unless you're 60 years old. So
no, you could be my age, but mom is over 60, and I'll come out and do the modification.
Oh, okay. Because I had called and the guy said that he couldn't put grab bars in the shower because it wasn't her house, and my husband is a year away from 60. So he said, call us back when your husband turns 60, and then I'll be able to come to your house.
There has to be someone in the household that's over 60.
Right, but I told him mom was with us, but he said because it's our home, she's not on the deed.
I mean, I haven't had a guy answering the phones for at least the last 10 years, so I'm not quite sure where that went through. I wonder if that went through a different department, but I'm the only one in that program, and I will make sure that you can get that done. If you give me a call with the older person's information, you can be on the list.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I will make sure that I include both Allie and Rose on the email that I'm going to be sending out to everybody later on today, so that everybody will have everybody else's contact information. So that if you want to get a hold of Rose to find out more about home modifications, or Allie to find out more about contacting for any of our home and community-based care services, and also to be able to ask follow-up questions. I mean, I can't even tell you the number of times that I have walked away from a doctor's office or a contractor that I've been talking to on the phone, and I hung up the phone and I go, damn, I forgot to ask them this. Excuse my French. Or, I walk out the door and I think, oh, why didn't I? It's like forgetting to pick up the butter at the store when that's the one thing I went there for. And I come back with like 1,000 other things and I forgot the darn butter. So I will make sure that that's the other piece, is if anybody wants to be able to talk about, and the other thing I was hoping that we could be able to do once we start to have this email group is for folks to start to feel like we make connections here and that we make a network here and that you feel like, and even between, Deb and Jackie and Kathy and Rose, Rose hasn't joined us, Rose Dumont, that we could all start to look at each other as our own resources too. I mean, we have this ability to be able to get on Zoom, and I'd love to be able to start, thinking about it being its own little support network too. So, Rose, well, first of all, I want to see if either Kathy or Deb or Jackie, do you have any other questions you might want to ask about Rose about home modification?
You were talking about window and door motion sensors. What is that for?
Right. So sometimes you might have a senior in your home that has dementia or Alzheimer's.
Yes,
We do
yes.
get a lot of calls about the double bolted locks or interior locks. Unfortunately, because of the fire code, we can't come out there and lock your senior in, but we can put sensors on the doors and windows if you believe that those are issues. That way it'll beep to you or it'll beep to your phone and let you know that someone's trying to leave. And if you have that, an escapee type situation, I always recommend getting the Ring doorbell or such other brands that do that, because let's say for some reason you're asleep and the patient leaves, at least one, did they go left or right when they went out the door? Two, what were they wearing? And three, a timestamp of when it happened, because you want to be able to have all that information available to you. And those Ring doorbells, they're going way down in price. I think they're like $80 right now, and it is so valuable. And I just recommend people, please don't get those two-sided deadbolt locks. So sensors and other motion detectors are the way to go.
Okay.
If you
Thank
lose the
you.
key on that double lock and there's a fire, I just, I gasp to think of that happening.
There's also something called a Wise camera, WYZE, and we had those in Mom's house. Of course, she gave us her permission and everything, but you can keep an eye on them, see what they're doing if you're ever not there, and that's what we used when she was at home.
Yeah. There's
which I
so
thought was
much
great.
better technology out there now than to just keep putting locks on doors, that seems like the old school way to do things.
And a lot of them now too. I mean, I for Christmas I got the Echo, which is an Alexa type of device that we have hooked up with our Ring camera, and it really, you can show your front door. You can show, and it does. A lot of them link. We have a Wise camera as well, and a lot of them link all together. So even if you're at work and you have a senior who's got some Alzheimer's or some memory issues, you can pull up on your phone and everything can connect all together. So they really are coming down in price, like Rose said, and it's a huge benefit to have that security and that stabilization and knowing that you've got some comfort in being able to watch. I mean, we have an employee here whose husband has gone through some brain traumatic injuries, and that's what she does. She watches them at times because that's her comfort in knowing that she can oversee things that are happening. So
and sometimes your loved one won't let you hire somebody to come in. Mm-hmm. And maybe they're not at that stage where they absolutely have to, but they still need an eye on. And this way you can even talk to them. Okay, Mom, it's noon. Did you have your sandwich and pills? Because there's a lot of times they don't want a stranger come to the house and they're just not at that stage. Mm-hmm. So these cameras and these two-way microphones are a way to still communicate before you have to get to that next stage.
What do you recommend for a two-way microphone? Because we only have the one where you can see them, but they can't hear you, kind of.
Well, Ring has that. So, and a lot of the other ones, you might even be able to find some Alexa devices that have, it's almost like a baby cam, but it hooks up to your phone. So you can make it where there's a microphone where they can hear you, kind of like Alexa can talk to you and go back. And, that's just the best thing. It's just like, you're keeping an eye on them. They're comfortable because they're still being independent, and just that little nudge. Hey, Mom, or I see you dropped your glasses. Do you see them there or something?
Yeah, a
Anywho,
lot of times they forget to keep their phone with them. But
yes.
then, and I can see that she's okay, or I could when she was home, but yet her phone's on her night table, and so it's like I always want her to have that phone with her, but I
Right,
can't really call her. I can't really speak to her, but
right.
so it would be nice to be able to speak to her somehow.
I think
Wise, I
she has.
thought Wise had that as well. Doesn't, I know our Wise, you can two-way
Mhm.
communicate.
Yeah.
Oh, you can? Oh.
We were able to, yeah, I mean, it's delayed, but we were
Oh.
able to. It's just the little square box that we have. You
Oh, I
might
should look
need,
into it then.
yeah, double check, because you might just need to download the app, and then you go
Okay.
through the app on your phone and you can communicate, because we used to play games when we first put it up and would, have fun conversations with our kids at that point, just to kind of tease them. So
Right.
double check and take a look. Yeah.
Well, it's like a doggy
Thank you.
cam. You see
Mhm.
all these people who are talking to their dogs and stuff like that. They also have, if you have a Fire Stick on your TV or any other online streaming service, you can actually have it. There's an app where you can have your picture pop up on the TV. Hey, Mom, I'm here. I just wanted to remind you to take your pills. And you're right there if they have their TV on.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
Yeah,
a
I
fire
don't know the
stick?
name of that. I don't know if that's exactly through Fire Stick, but I know the app you can get to through Fire Stick. It'd be worth Googling. I don't have all that information yet, but I saw it play out on a commercial recently.
Oh, that's cool.
People were
Yeah.
talking to their dogs, so I mean, I assume it's the same,
Yeah,
could be the same thing.
that would be awesome.
Yeah, that's what I would do. Honestly, if my parents were in my house, I'd probably invest in a little bit of camera work,
Yeah.
One of the things that's great about this is that it's sort of, it's not an all or nothing. I have to be home with mom all of the time, or we have to have somebody in the house all of the time. It's more subtle than that. There are ways to do this right and safely and have it be, sort of that just a half step.
Right.
That can maybe let them stay for, who knows how long, and
Right.
still have that main independence. And it's so that you're not, that if you can just do these things a little more gradually and make adaptations and changes, that allow them to keep just exactly what our mission is, to stay as independent as possible for as long as they choose to be independent. And then
Because
this
I
is a
agree
wonderful,
with you. Yeah.
this is
If they're in your home all the time and you're doing everything for them, they have no reason to use their brain and like still make that coffee or still,
right.
it's almost like I think when she was home, she had that, she at least had little things to take care of, and it would be nice to be able to have like that happy medium where it's not all or nothing, because it's what she's wanting too, but I don't want to do it where it's not safe, you know what I mean? So
Right.
Boy,
Right.
she
thank
can
you for
even
all
maybe
that.
cook for herself or something, and you feel safe about it because you're able to check in and be like, okay, Mom, did you turn the stove off?
Right. Yeah, that's awesome.
So, Deb, have you
Thank
got
you.
anything you'd like to join? Is there anything you'd like to add or questions you have?
No, I guess my first call is going to be Lori,
Good.
and see what we can arrange. And Rose, there's a couple of things that you mentioned that would be really helpful. My mother is 96 and lives on her own, but I live 2 doors away, and I am there probably 6 to 8 hours a day. She walks with a walker. She's able to do most things. She can't bathe, and she has some difficulty dressing, but we're looking for other things that would make her able to stay as long as possible in her own home, because that's her choice.
Definitely. We can help with an evaluation. And just a little trick while I'm on here with you guys that I found in some of the other Zooms I've been in is really helpful. It's something you can do without calling us. Get one of those 3M hooks or a hook that you drill, put it right by your front door. A lot of the falls outside of the bathtub are at the front door because the senior may be taking out their dog or grabbing groceries. And you have all these things in one hand, and then you've got to grab with the other, and maybe there's a step. Put a hook by the front door or a shelf. They can put their purse down. They can put their groceries down. That way they can fully open the door with all of their balance, then turn around, grab their items, and come back in. we can do that for you, of course, but it's just something that everybody could do to make the home a little bit safer for that area that's right at the front door. Because I know that's so embarrassing for a senior when they fall right at their front door, and they feel like it's in front of everybody. So it's a really simple, just take away from today trick is put some hooks at your house, her house, just so that she doesn't have her hands full. It's such an important, even just a threshold step.
Yeah, I'll do that at my house, but at this point, she doesn't go out by herself. She needs assistance.
Yeah.
So
even to Rose, that's one of the things that been great about giving Rose and her team a call is that we had a caregiver conversation that Rose was involved in way back this past summer, and I was surprised at how many things your handyman and your folks do and look at that I would not have necessarily thought of. And sometimes it's it's almost like proofreading proofreading something that I've written, that I can look at it and look at it and look at it and not notice that I've spelled this word wrong. But I give it to somebody else and they pick it up right away. And sometimes, so I think that there are advantages too, Deb and Jackie and Kathy, to maybe thinking about when you're talking with Lori, if you think that there might be somebody that, coming out and just to take like an honest look saying, hey, did you know we could do this? You're right, Deb. If it's something where they're not going out by themselves, then you can say, gee, no, I don't think we'll need that. But they can also speak to, I think he can also speak to, placement and height of where things go and where it would make sense. It might be in a bathroom that you might be able to use the same grab bars for the toilet and the shower, depending on where things are placed. Maybe not. Maybe you want to, or, where the, where the joists are, so you have it screwed into the studs, rather than having them, rip the toilet paper holder out, which my dad did several times, trying to use the toilet paper as a grab bar. So,
almost every time we go install a grab bar, we're putting a towel bar back in.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. And those are the worst. Trust me. Think about this. And I had a lady call me the other day and said, oh, I talked to Travis Hardware in Cocoa. He told me I can buy the grab bars and just use marine glue and glue it onto the tile. I mean, she wouldn't have believed the look on my face. But that's saying that I believe that this 70-year-old piece of tile is going to hold up my parent, that if they were to fall, weighs twice as much as their normal weight, because it's called dead weight. You pull, your gravity when you fall is twice as heavy. So when you get a grab bar, also think about that. Don't get a grab bar just for a 150-pound person. Get one for a 250-pound person, 300-pound person. It may seem like mom doesn't weigh that much, but she will when she's falling. But to just trust that the tile was going to hold her up, I can't believe there's somebody out there saying that. And in fact, I was going to tell you, Allie, I want to give them a nice little call, because telling people that in their store is just insane. I just thought I was going to lose my mind. You've got to go through the tile into the stud. At least one end of the grab bar has to have that. And please, my second thing to take away, please don't get suction grab bars in the state of Florida. It is unpredictably humid in your house. They will fall off.
Yep. And those suction grab bars, and even when you put them on, they might work for 15 or 20 minutes, but they're not going to work for a week. You can, I've got a set, and I know that I put them on, and so they're not something that, yes, they wouldn't be top on my list of things to count as safe. So.
They're not ADA approved, and so that's all you ever want to do is something that the American Disability Act decided was the way to go. If you are going to buy grab bars for yourself, Lowe's carries Moen brand, which is the faucet people, and they're stainless steel and ADA approved. Even the white ones aren't a good idea because they're porcelain coated. As soon as you hit it, say if you hit it with your ring, that white porcelain chips off, and then it rusts all the way through. Within a year, that whole thing could be gone.
Mm-hmm. So I promise to have within the next day or so an email out to everybody. I hope to do it this afternoon, might be tomorrow morning before I get a chance to do it. Just connecting all of us together. I will be sending out, for sure will be sending out some information probably towards the end of this week in advance of next week's program, which is going to be getting your ducks in a row, or getting organized, which is the conversation we're going to be having, like I said before, with Ruth Rhodes and Dignity Memorial, Mac Cannon from Dignity Memorial. And they both have paperwork that I want to get to you guys so that you'll have it in front of them so that we can talk about it. And I thank everybody. It is 3:05 and we've gone over just a little bit, but I thank everybody. Thank you, Rose. Thank you, Allie, Kathy, Deb, Jackie. I think it's been another great session, and I hope you guys to see you all next week.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Thanks so much,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank
You're all
you.
blessings. Thank you.
Thank you very
Stay
much.
safe.
Talk
Thank
to you guys later.